Hey guys, so today for Earth Day we are doing an upcycling container garden. You can do this anywhere, you don't need a lot of space, and we're using just things that you would typically throw in your garbage, hopefully in your recycling. What you need for this is for some potting mix. You don't want potting soil because it doesn't have enough drainage. Potting mix, some seeds of your choice. I'm doing cucumbers, tomatoes, zucchini, corn for my husband. I don't really care for corn that much. And then you're going to need your bottles that you would normally recycle, hopefully. And I'm just using some water bottles here. Later you'll want a little bit bigger ones. Milk jugs make really, really good containers. We actually don't drink dairy, so I didn't have any milk jugs. But you can also use the tops off of cakes that you would get from a bakery, anything that's plastic that you can cut a hole into basically. So we are going to start by cutting off the label just because you don't want the label to block any bit of the sun. So I cut off the label and then I'm going to cut off the top. Now it's really, really important that you save these tops because we're going to place them back on top of the water bottle. So just set them aside once you get them all cut off. That way we've got them for later. And if you're like me, please make sure that your dog doesn't steal them and chew them up. So I'm just gonna hide this away from Louie, who thinks everything is a toy. And we are now going to write on the front of the bottle. I'm just writing corn. The reason I do this is in the beginning, it's a little bit harder to tell what's what. And even as it gets a little bit further along, sometimes zucchini and cucumber look a lot alike. So just for later when I'm transplanting these, I'll want to know what I'm actually transplanting. So now that it's labeled, we are going to cut holes in the bottom to create drainage. This is really important because even though plants need water, just like humans, you can overwater them. So I'm cutting 3 slits along the bottom so that all the excess water can drain out. This is also why we're using potting mix, so that the water is able to drain properly, whereas with potting soil it can get really, really moist and the water just get really heavy and sit in there and cause mold and your plant can die. So now that we've got our holes, we're going to go ahead and add in our soil. This is pretty basic, you just kind of throw it in. You want to make sure that you're putting enough in, so pack it in and then add some more. And now I'm going to add in my corn seeds. I am adding in about 4 or 5 seeds. Basically, when you transplant plants, you can originally start off with more than 1 or 2 because you can separate them later and have 5 or 6 corn stalks, corn plants basically, all coming from the same bottle. So you're just going to continue this process with every single bottle that you have in order to create your garden. I'm doing 1 bottle per seed packet. I'm obviously not using the whole seed packet, but 1 bottle per seed packet, so I'm keeping my seeds separated because they will end up needing different things like in the future after they start to grow. So now that all of our seeds are planted, we're going to put the tops back on. And the reason we put the tops back on is because it creates a greenhouse effect. So it's going to get very warm in there and very, very humid, like moist. I hate that word. But that is exactly what a seed needs to germinate and grow. So by doing so, it just ends up creating the perfect little environment without costing any extra money, and you're able to still see your plant, which is important. They're still able to get the sun, and it's not going to be too hot because we're not putting the caps back on. And what's nice is you can just remove the little top, add your water, and then put the top back on, and you're good to go for the day. You want to make sure that you do give your seeds plenty of water, not too much, but just enough to help them kickstart the growing process, because water is important. That's how they're going to germinate. So I'm just going to water these, and then I'm going to place them in a nice little spot where they get about 3 to 4 hours of sun per day. And that's just because right now they're focusing on actually germinating. So I don't want them sitting in the hot sun all day long. Sorry about the boob shot there. But I don't want them sitting in the hot sun all day long because I do live in Hawaii. It gets very, very hot here. So this little spot here gets about 3 to 4 hours of sun per day. And look it's only about a week later, if that. And look at my cucumbers. They have just sprouted up like nothing. Or like no tomorrow. What am I saying? Like nothing. Anywho's, I am using the top off of a pie that I got from a bakery in Safeway. And these tops are really handy because you can just cut your little holes in there and they're big enough to hold a couple of plants. Now you want to make sure you're not putting a plant that needs a lot of root space. Those would work better in like a 1 gallon milk jug, but for this I'm actually going to be doing some group growing. So we're just going to throw our soil in. I'm just making sure it's all nicely mixed up, and we are going to add our corn first. I'm putting 2 stalks of corn in here, 1 on each side. Now in order to get these out, you just kind of want to squeeze the side there and just shake it down just a little bit. You don't want to break the plant because they're really, really delicate right now still. So we're just going to shake these out a little bit, see if we can get them out. And then like I said before, they can be separated. So we're going to end up with about, what is that, 5 corn stalks, which is pretty nice considering they all started in a water bottle. So I am going to place the strongest 2 in here first. You can tell they're the strongest because they'll be the most progressed as far as growth. Like they'll be the tallest one, have the most amount of leaves on it and whatnot. And we are going to add these into the little holes here. And you want to make sure that you kind of bury them pretty deep, because the deeper you go, the more strength they'll get, the sturdier they'll be, so they won't topple over. Especially because corn actually has really shallow roots, which is one of the reasons that they're not that earth friendly, by the way. But they do have really shallow roots, so you want to make sure that when you transplant them, you kind of put them down slightly deeper than some other plants that you would normally do. But now I'm going to add in my 3rd plant, which is going to be a cucumber. And the reason I'm actually putting them in the middle here is because you can actually do group gardening where the plants actually help each other. So with the corn, the cucumber growing in between these 2 will actually vine up both of these, and it'll be kind of nice for the cucumber because the cucumbers like to vine, and then it's helpful for the corn because the corn is very, very sensitive to lack of water. So the cucumber leaves will help kind of shelter that a little bit so it doesn't get so dry so quickly. So it's just kind of, they're helping each other out, doing their own thing. So anyways, I'm going to add in more soil now that they're planted in firmly, just to give it a little bit more room to kind of spread all of their roots out, and it gives them all a little bit more stability. And I'm going to pack it a little bit. And we will continue on with the rest of our plants, just going as normal. So here I have just a 2-liter soda bottle that I put 1 zucchini plant in. And if you turn your top of your bottle upside down and put the plant through the actual opening of the hole, this will actually provide it a bit more stability as it's growing and keep the stem from breaking. So it's really a good idea to do this. You can do it with tomatoes, anything that has a tendency to break. And this is the final product. So I'm going to have zucchini, corn, cucumber. I've got my tomatoes here. I put 2 tomato plants in because they're not as big as everything else. So at some point, the weaker of the 2 will come out. But that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please remember to recycle or upcycle any products that you can. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.